Welcome, everybody, to the F4 Hunger Awareness Show.
It's my goal to feed 1 billion people before I die.
We want to bring awareness around the issue of hunger and food insecurity.
7 to 8 million people served so far. The sole goal of eradicating world hunger by connecting sources of food to recipients in need. Fiorenza's Food for Friends.
Hi, Derek Fiorenza here with Fiorenza's Food for Friends. Welcome to the F4 Hunger Awareness Show. I'm joined by
Isabella Ambrosino.
And today we have a very special guest with us. It's a dear friend of mine, someone I'm grateful for, I look up to, I admire as a person. I have learned so much just by the way he's lived his life through the years. He used to be a board member of our organization F4, and he runs a very successful insurance practice in the media area. And today we're going to be meeting with Tom Mallon of Allstate Insurance, and we're going to kind of learn a little bit more about Tom's journey, how he came into the life of insurance, what he does outside with his many passions, and why service is important to him. So with that, Tom, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Welcome. I really appreciate the invite. I'm glad to be here and happy to share any words of wisdom that I may be able to put out there.
Well, we appreciate that. And before we kind of get started, one thing I thought would be a nice icebreaker is you actually make honey with the bees, right?
That I do.
So what's that process like? I know you always explain it to me when we get together.
Well, I actually can't take the credit for making it. I can take the credit for harvesting it. It's the thousands and thousands of honeybees that do all the work. So I can't take all that, but it's been a passion. I'm going on my 4th year of raising honeybees. Last year I had 5 hives, probably about 250,000 bees in my backyard.
Unbelievable.
Produced about 120 pounds of honey last year. And again, I give all the credit to them. They do the work. I harvest it, and I take what they don't need. I would never take what they need to survive the winter, but I just take their excess and to filter it, jar it up. Don't do anything with it, but process it, and then you got pure, organic, 100% raw honey, which is, as we all know, is very medicinal in its purpose, but also is fantastic on food, in drinks, you name it. It has 1,000 usages. So I'm looking forward to the spring to get the girls going again. But right now it's just a matter of survival mode and getting them through the winter.
When does that start, Tom?
Typically, when the weather gets above 45, 50 degrees, they'll start becoming more active.
Okay.
And right now, again, they're just hunkering down, keeping each other warm, making sure the queen survives through the winter. And like I said, when it gets about 50 degrees, the first real flowers out of the springtime are usually the dandelions, and that is food for them. So I implore everybody, if you see dandelions, don't cut them right away, because the poor honeybees, which we need to survive, they need that food coming out of the winter, because they're going to be deprived of food unless folks like myself, we feed them over the winter. We give them certain nutrients to get them through, but they need that natural nectar and the flowers and whatnot. So yeah, see dandelions, let them alone.
Leave them alone. So those hives, so you said there's about 120 gallons total for the whole season?
120 pounds.
120 pounds. Okay, so
Yeah.
each hive produces like between 20 and 25 pounds of honey.
Right.
Somewhere in that range.
The rule of thumb, to put things into perspective, is that the average lifespan of a honeybee is about 6 weeks, and in that 6 weeks, that honey, it takes about 8 bees to produce 1 teaspoon of honey.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea.
And I produced 120 pounds.
Unbelievable.
So you can imagine how busy, hence busy as a bee, not to be cliche or anything
Yeah.
like that, but you can imagine how many bees it takes and how many trips in and out of the hive it takes just to produce 1 teaspoon of honey.
So when you're harvesting it, how frequently are you harvesting it during a season? Like how often?
I typically, it all depends on them. It depends on the pollen season. It depends on what type of flowers that you may have in the blooming in your area at that time. But typically, I will harvest twice a year, usually once in June and once in maybe late August.
And then you were telling me last time we spoke, then for the winter, you have to keep some of that in there. That's what you were saying. It keeps them alive during the winter season.
I do. There's a couple chambers in a hive, and one is called the brood boxes, and that's where the queen lays all her eggs. But they also surround those eggs with nectar and honey and whatnot. Down in those chambers, I will not take the honey from them. That's really what they use to survive. Then they have what they call honey supers, which are smaller chambers above that they will just put their excess honey in, and that's the only thing that I harvest and take from them.
And what got you into all the decision to start harvesting honey? I mean, that's a
It's a
huge
funny
thing.
story. There's a lot of bucket item list things that we always have on our refrigerators or in our little diaries or whatnot, and this was one of them. This was one of them, and I always wanted to do it. And one day I was out at Chester Valley playing golf with a good friend of mine. And at the end of the round, he said, "Excuse me, I'll be right back. I want to go get something." And he went and he brought back these 3 bags, little gift bags, and inside those bags were little jars of honey. And I
Oh,
said, "What is this?" So it's kind of odd at the end
yeah,
of a golf match to get a
yeah,
gift of a jar of honey. Typically you have a beer and you have a burger and you enjoy each
yeah.
other's company. But he told me, he said, these are from my bees. And I swear it was a sign from the Almighty God that, okay, push me over the edge. This is going to get me into it. And we started talking about it. And he came over that next summer, or I should say, the next spring, and helped me set up my initial hives. And 4 years later, here we are. And I still talk to him all the time. We share bee notes and whatnot. But he really pushed me over the edge and got me into it.
Wow, now it's lifelong. You're stuck with it.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of work, but it's not a lot of work. It's intensive when you're doing it, but the reality is you need to let Mother Nature do her thing, stay out of their way,
Yep.
but you also got to protect them by making sure that the hives are healthy, that they have the food, that they can survive, that they have the environment that they can survive. Clover, dandelions, flowers, a source of water, all that will equate into very healthy hives and very productive hives.
Do you grow any other things like vegetables or meat or anything?
We do actually, as you well know, my son owns his own little Italian pizzeria here in Springfield, and one thing that my wife and I have gotten into was growing the vegetables for his restaurant. So for 2 or 3 months out of the summer, his tomatoes, his onions, his peppers, his jalapenos, his lettuce. It all comes from our garden. So we have two. We have one large garden, one smaller garden in on our property, and my wife and I have really gotten into to eating healthier. That's primarily why we do it, and secondarily is to help Thomas out with having organically grown and local produce for his restaurant.
That's incredible. That's so cool. Isabella, you might want to chime in there with your restaurant story.
Yeah, we have a restaurant as well.
Oh,
My family, we live up by Bloomsburg. I don't know if you know where that
okay,
is.
no, very well.
So we live right by there, and my parents own a little pizzeria right now. So I know a little bit about the restaurant.
Nice.
It's amazing that he's able to use all fresh
Yes.
vegetables, and that's awesome because it tastes
Yeah,
better too using fresh vegetables.
it does. I agree with you 1,000%. And what we do is I tell him on any given day, are you in need of something? And he's like, oh yeah, I need I'm out of tomatoes. Okay, great. Well, literally they're picked that morning and they're served that afternoon or that evening or a few days after. So it doesn't get any fresher than that. And we don't. One thing we don't do is we use no pesticides, no sprays, no nothing, because not only is that probably bad for the vegetables, but it's also bad for the bees, ironically.
No way. Wow, that makes so much sense, Tom. See, I love this. I'm learning so much. Well, I will say, Isabella, hopefully we can have Tom's son, Tom, on a future podcast because Toscana, the pizza's amazing, but they also donate to City Team. So they also donate excess pizza to City Team. So they've been a great partner to F4 and to City Team for years. So that would be a great future guest to have on our show.
I agree. And probably since I'm the one that gets the food out of the walk box every Monday morning for City Team, since Thomas is not up that early because of his restaurant hours, we probably on occasion, probably we do about 20 to 30 pounds every single week.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
It's
And
really good.
yeah,
We had them on a few weeks back and amazing mission that they're doing and been doing it for a long time. Great partner agency and as our model, finding that, the opportunities to connect with those that are serving on the front lines. It's so cool that you guys are donating that pizza to them.
the reality is, you well know, Derek, you've been doing this for a long, long time, is it's going to end up in a trash can or a landfill.
Yep.
And why any restaurant in this country doesn't do what we do
Yep.
or what you do baffles me, because we all know that it goes for the greater good. We have a hunger issue in this country, and the fact that you're protected by the law, to me, makes it an absolute no-brainer. I'd rather see it in someone's stomach than in the trash can or a landfill. And that's to me, that's why we're committed to the food drives, and Thomas is committed to making sure that his excess food gets into the right hands. So
That's our tagline, Isabella. If I'm going to jot that down, I'd rather see it in
I will.
someone's stomach than in a landfill. That's
I'm going
great.
to trademark that. You can't take it. I'm
You should.
trademark.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
No, it's all you. It's
All
all
right.
you. Have it.
So,
Have at it.
yeah, I like that. So, Tom, this is great. We could talk about bees and vegetables all day. I think it's absolutely amazing. I have a small, small, small garden. I would love to someday be able to grow enough for my entire family. That's a dream. I think hopefully someday I'll get to that point where I can. But the focus of today's show, we really want to learn more about you. So, obviously, you've been involved in helping our charity as a tremendous, generous donor, you and your wife and family. But I want to go prior to that. What led you onto the current career path? You're at Allstate. You own an insurance agency in Springfield. What led you onto the career path? And feel free to start if you want to start in college or earlier. Would love to just hear your journey.
Do we have enough time?
Yeah, we do. Time is yours, as Andy Reid used to say.
Well, uh, that's a good question. I think when coming out of college, uh, I think I was driven by the wrong things. I think I had idols that were probably not the smartest things. I was driven by the almighty dollar. I did join a phenomenal, phenomenal company, MBNA America, right, which was a credit card company out of Newark, Delaware. They were amazing. The people were amazing. My roommate from college, Rich, he called me up because he knew I was looking for a job, and he said, "Tom, you got to get down here." And I'm glad I did. I spent probably a little over 8 years down there. I learned from MBNA everything about what and how people should be treated, uh, what they look for in a product, how they expect themselves to be treated, always thinking yourself as a customer, um, putting yourself in their place. And so the service aspect was amazing, and the company itself was amazing. So I learned a lot. But I was also, I think, shrouded in the fact that recently married, I got to make a living for my family. I'm going to have a family eventually, God willing, and I need to support them. And I think I got a little caught up on the wrong journey, and so MBNA came and went, and then I ended up moving over to totally did a 180, and I went to a local high school in Delaware, which I attended, Archmere Academy down in Claymont, Delaware. And the headmaster at the time asked me to run the advancement and public relations offices, which I had zero experience. And went in and it prayed on it a lot. It felt good because I thought, okay, it's a good chance for me to manage a department, manage people, get experience in a different level. So I did it, and I did it for about 12 years. And through some change in administration and whatnot, my tenure at Archmere was over, and I spent about probably about 16 months unemployed.
Mm.
And that was it was hard. My wife and I went through some financial troubles, and we lost a lot of our savings and whatnot. But the the I guess the diamond in the rough was it gave me a chance to realign my values and really focus on what means the most to me. And when I say that is I spent more time with my children.
Mm.
I took them to the bus stop in the morning. I picked them up in the afternoon. I spent a lot of time with them, and that allowed me to really refocus myself and find out what's most important to me. And so after that short period or long period, however you want to look at it, of unemployment, I one of my dad's best friends gave me a phone call, and he said, "Hey, I don't know what you're doing in terms of employment, but I understand that you're looking." And he was an Allstate agent. He retired, and he was an Allstate agent. He said, "There's an agency up in Ballackinwood that's coming up for sale. Here's the guy's phone number. I don't know if you ever want to do insurance, but why don't you give the guy a call? So, just feel him out and see what's going on." So I reflected, prayed on it, and I knew nothing about insurance at all. But what I did know is that my entire career was relationship oriented,
Mm.
relationship building. It was customer service. And as I said earlier, MBNA taught us how to truly treat the customer. So I thought about it, and I did make that phone call. I spoke to the owner of that agency at the time. His name was Larry, and Larry was very receptive. Interviewed me, and 8 months later, I purchased the agency. And I sat back and I said, okay, this is a chance to do what I love, is interact with people. It gives me the flexibility of schedule to be able to do things outside of just working a job. And that's giving back, that's getting involved in nonprofit organizations or whatnot. So this job, and I bought my agency in 2009. So this job over the last probably 15, 16 years has really allowed me to refocus myself, prioritize what means most to myself and my family, and certainly the flexibility to go out there and utilize the three things that I think is important: your time, your talents, and your treasure. And to me, that's important. My parents instilled a really good work ethic and a giving back ethic in myself and my sister, and it's the right thing to do. I've been blessed. My wife has been blessed, and my children have been blessed. And the fact that we are able to give back, whether it's just helping one person at a time or a group of people, that's what we're committed to do, and that's what I've brought into my agency. The folks that are on my team here, all fantastic people. They too have the same philosophy. We share it, and we live it each and every day. That's my journey.
Hmm. Can you go back to when you were unemployed, that 18 months? It was a 16 or 18? 18 months?
16.
16 months. What role did your faith play during that time period? And then how was it, trying to manage that job search and stay like engaged mentally?
Great question. Uh, uh, to me, and Dirk, you know my full story, which we may hit on or not hit on later. But faith is everything. It has gotten me through some really tough times. Um, One thing I have learned through that unemployment period and subsequent um, issues in my life is that it, once you turn yourself over to God,
Mm.
the journey will become pretty clear. Even though the waters can be muddied at times, uh, but I believe that everything that has been put on my plate is for a reason. It's hard. It has been very hard to handle it at times, but somehow, some way, we've gotten through it, and I've gotten through it not only through prayer and reflection, which I did a lot of when I was unemployed. But my family and friends have also been pillars of strength for us, over the unemployment period, and certainly over the last 10 years. And that's been very impactful. So to get back to your question about the 16 months, is I had a lot of chance to reflect, and then I also had a lot of chance to self promote. I thought I had a pretty good resume in terms of not just employment but overall, and I wanted to get into a position where I could use all those talents to the benefit of just not my family but to everybody that I come in contact with. So it did I thank that God for that 16 months of unemployment, because it was humbling. I probably needed to be humbled a little bit, but it opened my eyes to a lot of things.
And it sounds like it prepared you for some of life's biggest challenges that you've had to face.
It did, and I'll bring that to the forefront now. I think that struggle of not knowing where the next paycheck was going to come, having to do all kinds of little odd part-time jobs just barely pay the bill. Uh, we almost lost our house. Uh, we were probably down to our last mortgage payment, and then that was in 2008, 2009, and then my kids were just going to high school and they wanted to go to certain schools, and we had to sacrifice to get them so we could afford tuitions and whatnot. So it was definitely a struggle, and then all that kind of bonded ourselves together. And then, as you well know, in 2014, my daughter passed away, and that was the biggest test I think I've ever had in my life. No parent should ever have to bury a child, and I did. And um, there's not a day goes by that I don't talk to her. I don't think of her. I don't ask God why, but I know that will be explained to me at some point in time, and I know there's a reason. And Derek, you know me from the world of soccer. Very competitive. My entire family are uber competitive. Abby, who passed away, she was ridiculously competitive. So when I was at her funeral, when I was talking, I said, I said she won,
Hmm.
and everybody was looking at me like, okay, what do you mean she won? I said, she beat us all to God.
Hmm.
She is she's in heaven enjoying her eternal reward while we're sitting down here on earth, having our daily struggles, whether it's, what type of coffee should I order from Starbucks today, or what customer do I have to deal with, or customer complaint I have to deal with, or whatnot. But what I learned is that, everything that we deal with is, A, can be managed if you have the faith, and two, it can be rather trivial sometimes in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. Isabel, I know Tom just dropped a bomb. You didn't know that about
I
him.
know. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
You
Yeah.
don't have to be sorry.
It,
I appreciate that, but you don't have to be sorry. She's with God, and she beat us there, which I'm now I can probably, I don't want to say I joke about it, but I can say with a little bit of jesting going on is that she won. She beat us.
Yep. Tom, for somebody that's unemployed right now, or somebody that's lost a child and is going through that very struggle right now, and they've lost faith in God, have lost hope, um, they're ready to give up themselves, what would you tell them?
Don't give up. It's there's days where my wife, my two other children, myself, there's days where we wear the mask, and there's days where we don't have to wear the mask. There are um, times when you got to force yourself to put your feet on the ground and get out of bed, and you don't want to get out of bed.
Mm.
There was probably in the first 2 or 3 years, both Diane and I, we were just in a cloud. We did not want to go anywhere. We didn't want to deal with anybody. We didn't want to acknowledge the reality of what happened. And getting out of bed was hard. It still is. It still is because I wake up every day and my daughter's not there. And it's, and I equate it to, and we've all seen it. Isabel, you're young, you may not have seen it, but the movie Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, with Bill Murray.
It's
Yeah.
No, I've
with Bill
never
Murray.
seen it.
Put that
Exactly.
on. That's one for you, Isabel. Put that one on the.
Yeah,
I'll watch it.
it's a good movie. It's the same thing over and over and over, and that's when I wake up in the morning. It's the reality hits you where, okay, Abby's not here, but I don't I I don't feel sorry for myself. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for myself or my family if you have the faith. Because when we are born, we have an expiration date.
Mm.
We don't know when that is. God knows when that is. And God chose her for whatever reason to leave us back in July of 2014. Don't know what that reason is, but there's a reason. And I accept that. I absolutely accept that. She was a very faithful person, and I think her faith may have been from an older soul. I don't know. I don't want to get too philosophical here, but she was head and shoulders above her peers in spirituality. And I think God rewarded her for that. And I remind, yeah, and sorry to cut you off there, Derek, but and I remind Diane, because we've had some interesting conversations over the last 10 years, but I said, God entrusted us with her care, but we are children of God. And he wanted his child back. And I said, the pain that we feel is very similar to the pain that he had to feel when his own son was crucified. So he knows what we're feeling. He gets it. And that gets us through the day. And I have two other kids. I cannot stop being a parent because one of my children has been called home. It's God still entrusted the care of those two in my hands and Diane's hands. So we got to move on. There's no room to feel sorry for myself. There's no room for pity. What I've learned also through this process is I have no room for negativity. I just want to surround myself with positive people. And I do that with F4. I do that with the folks in my office. I do that with my circle of friends. I want to enjoy the time that God gives us because it's not guaranteed.
So perfectly said. My question to you was, how does somebody surrender to God?
You're asking the $64,000 question. It is hard. I don't know if I can say I fully surrendered, but I certainly have given up.
Hmm.
Uh, I have prayed and prayed and prayed for guidance. I've prayed, Diane, who is a big spiritual person who constantly has the Bible at her side. She reads it every day. Uh, that pretty much to me and her is really that's the playbook. That is the only book you really need to survive life. Everything else to me is a distraction.
Hmm.
But if to your question, how do you turn yourself over? That I don't know if one answer is the right answer. It's certainly going to be different for every person because we all come from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different cultures. It to me, it was just, you know what? I got to get rid of all the prejudices that surround me. I got to get rid of all the idols that we put in front of us that we think maybe godlike or we think that is directing us in our journey, and just focus on my relationship with God.
Hmm.
And I've done that, and He has given me the ability to articulate my feelings, which I do twice a year. I don't do it on purpose. It just kind of evolved that way. On my daughter's birthday, I always post something on Facebook, and I'm not a big social media guy, but I do Facebook. So on her birthday, which is in April, I always post something, and on her rebirth day, which is July 26th, I always post something, and I typically sit down a day or two before, and I just ask God. I say, God, just give me the words to put something out there, and and I've done it twice a year for the last 10 years, and they're His words. I'm not taking credit. I was just the conduit to put this in writing, but the words that have been put out, I have a lot of people that have told me that they've been changed.
Hmm.
They are turning back to God. They are reevaluating their priorities, and I didn't do that. I just wrote the words. That's that to me. That's divine intervention.
Hmm.
And as I said just a couple seconds ago, I'm just a conduit. For whatever reason, God chose me to do this. And my philosophy in life, whether it was back in the MBA days or back when I was in high school and college, or even to today, it my and it's a simple philosophy. If I can affect one person's life every single day, whether it's lending a hand or feeding them or helping them out or just making them smile, then I'm doing God's work.
Hmm. Amazing. Before we move on to a different topic, Isabella, I know there was a lot to take in. Is there anything that you wanted to ask Tom?
Um, I'm not sure. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think you are a very strong person. And I think as well, like we kind of mentioned before, I think God, there's a reason for everything. Like he has a reason for everything that happens in our lives. Um, so yeah, I think she's in a great place now. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Beautifully said. Well, I wanted to focus on our relationship with F4 and
Mhm.
the catalyst for that. So maybe we can talk a little bit about the work you do at Allstate because you've been a gracious donor. But take us through what you do day in and day out helping people with Allstate, please.
Sure, absolutely. We have probably I would say like a medium-sized agency here in Springfield, Delaware County, right on Sproul Road, just down the street from Cardinal O'Hara. It, my experience at MBNA, my experience at Archware Academy, all lent to the fact that the Allstate experience, the Allstate model is relationship building. It's taking care of people, and that's what I've got. That's my entire career. I've always taken care of people in one way, shape, or form. As I said earlier, owning an agency is probably the best thing I ever did. May have should have done it 10, 15, 20, maybe 30 years ago. But it allows me the flexibility to take care of people, to bring my customer service mission and philosophy to our over, I think we have now like 3,000, 4,000 customers. And what I do on a daily basis is I talk to a lot of people, and one part of our mission statement is to get to know each and every person, because I can't protect or properly protect somebody unless I know them and I know the dynamics of their family. I'm not going to just write a policy and just give you the XYZ coverages. That's not fair. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to the all the other folks that are out there. I'm going to customize a policy that is going to protect you, because the last thing I want anybody to do is call me up and say, Tom, I don't have coverage, or I don't have enough coverage, because I'm going to feel really, really bad about the service that I provided. And that's, to me, is absolutely unacceptable. So I want to get to know you. I want to get to know when your kids turn 16. I want to get to know when your kids get married. I want to know what life events are happening so I can, in turn, develop a plan for you. And that could be from home to auto to your life insurance to your retirement. We do some level of retirement here as well. Um, but I want to make it all encompassing, so there's no holes in the plan and there's no surprises. God forbid something catastrophic happens.
Yeah, just for people that might not be aware, maybe just take a few minutes and go through what is home insurance, auto insurance, and life insurance. Just those three.
Sure. We'll start with the auto. That seems to be, it's pretty self-explanatory. The auto insurance is you're driving around, and two key components. You got to protect yourself, and you got to protect the other person. Okay, so when I devise a plan, it's the liability aspect, it's the property damage aspect, which is going to protect the other person. If I hit them, I want to make sure that there's enough coverage in that policy to take care of you medically, to take care of your car, replace it, and then certainly I need to take care of you as well in terms of fixing your car for whatever reason, whether it's you hit something, something hit you, an animal jumped out in front of you. We want to make sure that we have all those coverages for anything that may be unforeseen, and then that parlays over to the house insurance as well. Your house is probably one of your biggest investments that you're ever going to make in your lifetime, and you want to protect that. And not only do you want to protect the overall structure, okay, but you want to protect the equity inside of that house, especially for people that either don't have mortgage payments anymore, they paid it off, or they've been there for 10, 15 years and they have a nice little nest egg of equity sitting within that house. So you got to make sure that the dwelling's protected. You got to make sure that the liability aspect matches similar liability over on the auto side. So God forbid anything were to come back at you, you're just going to be able to pick up the phone, call me, and say, "Hey, Tom, what do we got? Let's take care of it." And I can assure them that it's going to be taken care of. And then you get into the life. Life is to me it, it's neglected in this country. The statistics are probably less than 10 or 15%. I haven't checked them lately, so don't fact check me because it's probably wrong. But there's probably less than 10 to 15% of people have life insurance in this country. And why is that? We protect your home, we protect your auto, but why wouldn't you protect your life?
Right.
And it's simple in concept, but it does come down to affordability. You got to have your car. You got to get to work. You got to be able to make the paycheck to get a life is something that's it's probably secondary. People don't really think about it. We mention it at times. We probably should mention it a little bit more. But if you're out of the picture, your wife, your husband, your children, they could be seriously impacted. And for $25 a month or $50 a month or $100 a month, I think we as consumers, you need to prioritize that. Now if you're single, just out of college, okay, you don't necessarily need it. And I'll share a story with you. When my kids turned 16, I got life insurance policies on them. And I told my life specialist here in the office, I said, I only want to spend $25 a month. That's it. Get them as much as they can for $25 a month. And we did. And each one of my children qualified for a different amount. Go figure. Don't know why. Could be male, female. Okay, whatever. But when my daughter passed away, she had life insurance. And I put the claim in and it got paid out. And I'm kind of glad because funerals are not cheap.
No, they're not.
And I'm not a splashy type of person. I'm very simple. That funeral still costs about $30,000.
Oh my gosh.
But I had it.
Yeah.
I had life insurance. It did not impact me one bit. And same goes with like me and my business. If I'm called from this world, how are the bills going to get paid? How's the mortgage going to get paid? I don't want to stick my wife with a lot of heartache. So I sat down with my life specialist, and I said, let's just review me, and if we have to make changes, let's make changes. And we did. And this person made me realize that I was inadequately insured. So we changed it. And again, did it cost me more? Absolutely, it cost me more. But what I did was I reevaluated my priorities and said, okay, you know what? I'll sacrifice going out to dinner on a Friday night once a month.
Right.
And I'll reallocate those dollars to life, because that's more important than me going out for a pizza or a burger or whatnot. That the family's more important, and that's what we did. So I implore everybody, especially the younger the better, because it's cheaper, because you're not expected to die at 16 or 20 or 21 or 25 or whatnot, but it's really cheap and you can lock yourself in. And that's what we did. We devised a plan to cover the mortgage, to cover the tuitions, to cover this, to cover that. This way there was no heartache going to be passed down to those that survive.
So pitfalls, a lot of times I know in our world, people will shop and they commoditize things for the cheapest price. So this is a two-part question. What's the danger in that when you see some of these home premiums that are so low because they're maybe cheating and lowering liability? What's the danger in that, number one? And then number two, what would you say makes your approach and service different from others? You've touched on it, but maybe just to drive that point home.
So every state out there has state minimums. For the auto, and I'm just going to use the liability, it's 15,000, 30,000 in Pennsylvania. Okay. Unless it is absolutely necessary for one of my customers, I will never, ever offer a state minimum policy, because you're doing a disservice. And I'll use an example. If I give you, we'll pick on Isabella. If I give you 1530, okay, and you hit me, and you put me in the hospital for 2 weeks, how much do you think my bills are going to be?
Very expensive.
Yeah, throw a number out there.
Oh,
I need to have MRIs. I got to have surgery because I had, because I have all these lacerations and all that stuff. Just throw a number. Doesn't matter.
50, 60,000.
Okay. Okay. Let's say 60,000. So 60,000, it was your fault. You hit me. Your auto policy is only going to pay 15 of that $60,000 bill.
Oh my gosh.
And they satisfied their contract because they're only contractually bound to pay 15,000 because that's what you opted for.
Hmm.
So you got a 60,000 bogey, you got a 15,000 payment from your insurance company. What's that leave? 45,000 if I did my math correctly. Where's that money coming from?
Wow.
Okay, let's keep painting the picture. And this is the conversation I have over and over and over with my customers because not only are we insurance agents, but we're also educators.
Mm.
And sometimes we're psychiatrists, psychologists. We're all encompassing, but definitely educators. So you have that $45,000 bogey. So here's where I'm going to ask you a question, Isabella.
Okay.
Do you have $45,000 in your checking account right now? You don't,
No, not even
hypothetically,
close.
I am not asking you to give me raw real numbers. Just hypothetically, do you have $45,000 in your back pocket that you just say,
Here you
"Here you go,
No,
go.
I'm
Tom"?
lucky to have
Okay.
$45. So,
So if you can't pay my bills, because it was your fault, it was your fault. You hit me. Don't you think I'm going to get an attorney?
yeah.
Okay. And then that attorney's going to do what? He's going to sue you
Yeah.
for damages and his costs or her costs. So they're going to say, okay, well, Isabella, guess what? You own a home
Oh
and
boy.
you've been in there for 20 years. How much is that house worth? Oh, it's worth $500,000. Well, how much is your mortgage loan? Oh, my mortgage loan is 200,000. Oh, that's awesome, Isabella. You got $300,000 of equity and we're going to tap into it. Guess what? You're taking a second mortgage to pay Mr. Mallon off.
Mm.
And what if you don't have the equity? And I'm going a nth degree Grim Reaper story
Yeah.
here. What if you don't have the money? Okay, how about we garnish your wages? How about we look at any investments? How about we look at 401k?
Oh boy.
So it implores us, and I say this all the time, is the difference between 1530 and maybe 5100 or 100,000, 300,000. The difference might be $30 a month, $50 a month. Is it worth
No.
$50 a month? Which, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
$50 a month is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But is it worth you going through that whole iteration of being sued and giving up your equity or giving up your retirements or your 401k just for $50? Is it worth it?
Definitely not.
No, it's
Not even
not.
close.
So so that's why I say, okay, are you single? Are you married? Do you have kids? Do you have any other any other obligations financially that you have to take care of? Okay, then let's sit down and really put together a cohesive plan that's going to protect you from all that garbage that I just talked about. And in Allstate terms, would be all that mayhem that we hear about.
Yeah. So well said, Tom. And you told me a story years ago. One of the things you did, you actually got up onto like a roof. Is that right? You told me.
Well,
I'll take a look at that for you.
yeah, I have I probably have a sick sense of customer service because uh, my customers mean the most to me, and I don't have any problem saying that. I treat them like family. I cover them like if it was one of my family members. But there are times where affordability might be an issue. There are times where there's gray areas in policies where things may be covered, may not be covered. There are scenarios that may kick a policy out because the condition of a house may be such that Allstate or any other insurance carrier may not want that risk. So to your question, there have been some times where chimneys on certain homes have been a little bit dilapidated over the years, and not many people when you go to your house you look up. Not many people do, but the reality is when you have a home, you're still responsible for the overall maintenance of that home, and like I said, hence the gray area with claims. So some of these jobs that, or some of these issues I had facing me was um, the conditions of homes where it was probably too small for a contractor to come out. And if a contractor came out, they would have charged these folks an arm and a leg to fix things. And the customer did not necessarily have the skills to do the jobs at hand. Um, but when I was in high school and college, I worked construction, so I picked up some valuable skills. And my father was a lifetime Philadelphia Electric guy, so he knew plumbing and heating and electrical and um, many a days he forced me into learning his trade, which I'm glad he did because it's valuable lesson learned and saves me a lot of money now because I do all that work myself. And but what we did was I offered to go over to these folks' homes and either fix a banister or get up on the roof and repoint their chimneys or do some type of brickwork just to make sure that when these homes were inspected by Allstate, that they would pass and there would be no compromise to the policy. So yes, I am a little bit different in that respect, getting up on folks' roofs and doing that type of work. I don't probably sets me apart a little bit. Not many people do that stuff, but that's the warped sense of customer service that I have towards my people.
I love that. It's great. Well, be careful when you're looking at your policies. Make sure that you have the right liabilities and talk to an agent like Tom who can take care of you and really put your needs first. What's really cool, Tom, is you have a Facebook page. You're also on LinkedIn. I think you're on a lot of the different socials, so you can be
Yes,
found via these socials, like Tom's pages, follow his pages. And last part of our conversation, we're going to get into our relationship with F4. And it's multifaceted, right? So you said time, talent, and treasure. So you had given your time, you're on our board for a while. You're talented with all of your connections and then your treasures to the donations. So you've coordinated a shred event and a food drive with F4 for years. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what that event is. I have a picture up on the screen, but maybe you can talk a little bit about that event.
sure. That's the fun part. Um, with my son's relationship with City Team, and obviously, learning a lot about food insecurity from you, Derek, and F4. Uh, we host in September every year at Cardinal O'Hara High School a food drive, and it's kind of a catchy thing. We provide paper shredding, free paper shredding to the community and to our customers, and you literally just pull in, shred your papers, and all we ask for is a donation of a non-perishable food item. Cash is always good. Cash is king. So that is good as well. But in the past, we've had really great, successful events. I mean, it started off. I think the first year we raised 500 or 600 pounds of food, and I think at the best event that we had, which I think was about 2 years ago, I think we raised over 3,000, almost 4,000 pounds of food, and we share that with the local food pantries. Obviously, City Team is one of the benefactors, and we also use St. Mark's here in Broomall. They have a shelter that we've donated food to as well in the past from this event. So the one at Cardinal O'Hara has been very successful. I think this will be our 6th or 7th year we're going into come this fall. We get the students involved, the community service kids for in the school. They do a great job. So it's we get a lot of publicity. A lot of the local papers pick this up, and and in any given year, we're shredding 4,000 to 5,000 pounds of paper. We're collecting 2, 3, 4,000 pounds of food. So it's a win-win for everybody. I mean, we're taking papers that people probably been hoarding for years and years and years, and we're shredding it and recycling it. So it gets recycled. It doesn't end up in a landfill, and certainly the food is going to fantastic use because we're being able to provide nourishment to those that may be a little less fortunate or down on their luck a little bit. So that's the one that we have at Cardinal O'Hara. And then just last year, Christine Hagan, she had the idea of taking our event out to Chester County because I think that is an untapped resource out there. And she's done a fantastic job with that event. It rained pretty hard our first year, but we still managed to be successful and create awareness out there as well. And Christine lives in Chester County, as do I. So we thought, you know what, let's do it. Let's do it. So again, we did a free paper shredding, and we're probably going to continue that one in the early spring, and then one in the late summer, early fall. And I'm just going to keep saying it. It's a win-win because we're raising awareness and we're making an impact on people's lives.
Yeah. Why is this issue of food insecurity important to you?
It's a good question. You're the one that brought it to my attention years ago, and the statistics, and you can probably quote the statistics better than I can, but the statistics are staggering. In the Philadelphia area, there is a huge percentage of people that go to bed hungry. And the question is, why is that? And I can't answer that question. But if we can do something, even if it's just one person affected, and bring them out of that insecure environment, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, I thank you, Derek, for opening my eyes to that, because I really didn't know the statistics. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 Philadelphians, go to bed hungry or something like that. That's staggering. Staggering.
Yeah, and it's getting even worse, Tom. Isabella shared this from Feeding America. Isabella, if you want to hit on this real quick.
Yeah, I found a couple stats that, I mean, were kind of surprising to me, but also not surprising, just knowing how many people are food insecure. But 47 million people in the United States are food insecure, and more than 50 million turned to food programs and needed assistance. And then 100% of US counties, no matter how rich, how poor, everybody faces, like a lot of people face food insecurity in each county.
It's staggering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those
Staggering.
numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even before taking part in like F4, I had, I knew there was people that were hungry, but I didn't realize to what extent and how many people were food insecure. So it was really eye-opening to find out.
And I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we can say that food insecurity is just the homeless or whatnot. There are people living below the poverty line in this country, and everything we do, F4, and even just the small bit that I do from my company's perspective, we're hopefully helping to drive down, that statistic. But 47 million is still, it's too much.
Way too much.
But
Yeah, and we have on the screen for those that are looking, this is a picture from the Springfield one. I'm not the Springfield one, the Kennett one, the Unionville one with
We did that at Unionville Middle School. Yes.
the benefit CACs, the Kennett area covered. And that's the great thing, right? So we're doing a food drive and a shred event that Tom's sponsoring. He sponsors this event for his clients and anybody else in the community. You bring your old papers out, get them shredded, and you bring non-perishable food items or make a donation, all of the food and the money then goes to support then these local agencies that are then helping to communicate their services to the community and support those that are in need. It's such a beautiful, like you said, win-win. So we'll definitely be sharing the links, Tom, when you're doing those. We'll share those on our newsletter feed. But this was a great event. Christine did great, and it was really nice to have your support as always with everything you do to help us.
Always my pleasure.
Yeah. Well, I guess any last thoughts that you have on your end, Tom, that you want to share with us?
It's a good question. What I would say is, if there's anybody out there, and Dirk, you can share my contact information. That's no problem. If there's anybody out there that wants a review of their stuff, you're not going to get the high pressure salesperson. It doesn't matter whether I get the business or not. I would love to look at it and give you my own 2 cents. That's from the professional side. On the personal side, or from the community related side of things. If anybody wants to reach out and get involved, whether it's F4 or to help our event out, by all means, it's an open invitation. If you just want to come in and have a one-on-one just to talk about anything, again, whether it's related to the insurance or personal or my journey itself, I'm an open book. I have no problems. Feel free to reach out anytime. Glad to do it.
You have a heart of gold. I always say that, and so many of the attributes that you have and possess, they're ones that I really want to emulate. Like I look up to you, and I have admiration just to go through what you've gone through and to be so positive and Christ-centered and focus on serving and doing things with integrity. Um, I think it is rare in today's day, but it's made a profound impact on my life. So as a friend and a brother in Christ, thank you so much for not just your financial contributions to F4 and the food drives, but for the leadership and guidance and mentorship you've given to me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and the admiration gets right back at you because you opened my eyes to a lot of stuff that because I am blessed that I can. I'm blessed because I have the ability to use my time, talent, and treasure and make sure that I'm doing what my parents instilled in me, and that's giving back. And as my dad always said, you always have to go back and visit the old neighborhood.
I
And
love
I never knew what he said, but as I get older, that little statement is very impactful.
you have to go back and visit the old neighborhood. That's great. Well, great note to end on. Tom, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure.
I am Derek Fiorenza with,
Isabella Ambrosino.
and we're grateful to bring you the F4 Hunger Awareness Show. Please subscribe and tune in to our next episode. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank
God
you.
bless.